Hello friends, welcome to a new episode of Dristhi IAS Editorial Analysis. In this editorial analysis, we do three things. First of all, we link the editorial to the UPSC syllabus. Secondly, we try to understand the key points of the editorial. And thirdly, if any key concepts have come in the editorial and are important from exam point of view, we also discuss that. So let us begin today's editorial analysis.
Dear viewer, this video is available in Hindi as well. If you wish to watch it, please visit our Hindi YouTube channel, Drishti IAS. For your convenience, the link for this video in Hindi has been provided in the description below.
We have taken today's editorial from the Hindu and it has come on 15th of July. The title of the editorial is Lost Opportunity, and it says that India's loss in failing to develop the Chabahar port project in Iran might be China's gain. Now let us look at its linkage with the syllabus. So it directly links with GS paper 2, where we have international relations as one of the major topics. And under this it links directly with the bilateral relations between India and Iran. So after establishing the linkage with the syllabus, now let us look at its key points. Before moving on to the key points of the editorial, let us understand what the issue is all about. So here in this map we can see Iran, which is in the colored portion. And here we see that Iran is sharing land borders with 7 countries, starting from Pakistan, Afghanistan, Turkmenistan, Azerbaijan, Armenia, Turkey and Iraq. Also, the most important port of Iran is Bandar Abbas, which is located near the Strait of Hormuz. Also, we can see the port Chabahar, which is at the center of the controversy, and the Pakistani port of Gwadar, which is being developed with the help of China. Now here in this map we can see more clearly that why India is so much interested in the development of Chabahar port, because it allows India to bypass Pakistan and reach Afghanistan directly through Iran. So here is the Indian port of Kandla and here is the Chabahar. From Chabahar to Zahedan, a railway line has to be developed, and from Zahedan we can reach Jaranj in Afghanistan and then onwards to Kabul and other areas of Central Asia. That is why Chabahar is being seen as a gateway for India to reach Afghanistan and other Central Asian countries. But now Iran has decided to drop India from the Chabahar rail project. So this rail project, which was supposed to connect Chabahar with Zahedan on the Iran-Afghanistan border and was to be implemented by the Indian company Ircon, has now been taken over by the Iranian Rail Ministry, which is going to do it on its own without Indian assistance. And the reason for this, as stated by the Iranian side, has been the delay in the funding and starting of the project by India. And the major reason for this has been the American sanctions and the threat of American sanctions, which has not allowed India to raise finances or to be able to get the equipment suppliers on board for constructing the railway line. So last week the Iranian Railway Ministry has inaugurated the track laying process and it is supposed to be completed by 2022 at a cost of $400 million, which will be funded by the Iranian National Development Fund. And somewhere at the back of this decision is the impending China-Iran deal of $400 billion, which will be a 25-year deal, and it will be a strategic partnership between China and Iran. So somewhere this deal has also allowed Iran to let go of Indian assistance, though India will continue to operate the Chabahar port. And the ministry officials are saying that at a later date, India may also join this railway line work. But as of now, Iran has decided to proceed on its own. And the development of this railway line was part of the 2016 trilateral agreement signed by India, Afghanistan and Iran. And under that agreement, it was India's commitment to develop this railway line. So it is a diplomatic setback for India. Now with this background, let us look at the key points of the editorial. So the editorial starts by saying that India has always underlined the geostrategic importance it attaches to the Chabahar port project. The project was initially signed in 2003 under the AB Vajpayee government, and it has been a symbol of traditionally important India-Iran ties. And through this Chabahar port's development, India wants to reach to Russia and other Central Asian countries, and especially to Afghanistan, to which India's trade has been blocked by Pakistan. And India has always believed that Chabahar port's development will lead to better connectivity, better access to energy supplies, and better trade. But for a long time, nothing much happened. And finally, in 2016, Prime Minister Modi went to Tehran to sign a trilateral trade and transit agreement with Iranian President Hassan Rouhani and Afghanistan President Ashraf Ghani. According to the MOU signed then, it was agreed that India would be granted a 10-year lease to develop and operate 2 terminals and 5 berths in the Chabahar port. Secondly, India will get access to the Chabahar Free Trade Zone. And thirdly, India will be given the opportunity to build the 628-kilometer rail line from Chabahar to Zahedan, which is just across the border from Afghanistan. Now this opportunity has been taken away because of the long delays and inability to raise the finances. Though the Indian government had acted quickly to develop the Chabahar port facilities, which it has been operating since 2018, and India has also sent exports to Afghanistan in 2018 and has moved over 500,000 tons of cargo through the port for Afghanistan. But there has always been the threat of American sanctions because America pulled out of the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, which was the nuclear deal that the 6 countries had entered with Iran, under which Iran had to cut down on its nuclear weapons program in return for lifting of the sanctions. But America under President Trump has unilaterally withdrawn from the deal in 2018, and since then the sanctions have increased over Iran, and this has led to a lot of difficulties in India's work related to Chabahar port development as well. The editorial then points out the challenges with the rail line. It says the rail line never took off for a number of reasons, despite a commitment from the Indian state-owned IRCON to undertake its construction at an estimated $1.6 billion cost. And it points out some challenges. So there were frequent changes in the contract by the Iranian side, and secondly there were also delayed responses from the Indian side. But the major hurdle was the threat of American penalties. And the editorial says that though India was able to negotiate a sanctions waiver for the Chabahar port and rail line from the United States administration, but very few international construction and equipment partners were willing to sign on to the project because they always feared American retaliation for being part of a project which was being developed in Iran. And India also went slow on the construction of this rail line, which has now led to Iran ousting it from the project. The editorial says that regardless of the reasons for India's inability to join the railway project, the decision can only be seen as an opportunity lost, as India had much to gain by developing this railway project, as it would have allowed India the access to Afghanistan and other Central Asian republics. Also, the editorial says that the impression that India has done this under US pressure, especially after India also cancelled its oil imports from Iran, which were on very favorable terms for India, as the oil imports from Iran were cheaper, as well as the Indian refineries were having the technology specifically for refining the Iranian oil. But India had to let go of the oil imports under US pressure only. And both these developments show that India's commitment to strategic autonomy is only on paper, as it is being guided by the American threats. Also, the editorial says that Iran's claims that it will fund the railway using its own resources seems to be backed by the confidence that it has acquired after the deal with China for a 25-year $400 billion strategic partnership on infrastructure, connectivity and energy projects. Finally, the editorial says that in a world where connectivity is seen as the new currency, India's loss could well become China's gain, and it must watch the developments closely. So this was all in the key points of the editorial. Now let us look at some key concepts. In key concepts, let us look at Chabahar and its geopolitical significance for India. So Chabahar is a Persian word which is made up of two words, Chahar meaning four and Bahar meaning spring. So the literal meaning is a place which has spring in all the four seasons of a year. And now let us look at its geopolitical significance. So it will boost trade, diplomatic and military ties with Iran. Secondly, it provides better connectivity to Afghanistan bypassing Pakistan. Thirdly, it acts as a gateway for India to the other Central Asian countries. And fourthly, it is located near the Gwadar port being operated and developed by China in Pakistan. So it becomes strategically important for Indian defense establishment, as Chabahar is only 100 km by sea from Gwadar and 400 km by road. And Chabahar port is located in Sistan and Baluchistan province in southeastern Iran, and it lies on the Gulf of Oman and the only oceanic port of Iran. And in December 2018, India has taken over the operations of the port. Now this Chabahar port has two separate ports. One is the Shahid Kalantari and the other is Shahid Beheshti. So this Shahid Beheshti is the port which has been given to India for operation, and it is being operated by India Ports Global Private Limited. The other major port of Iran is Bandar Abbas, which handles 85% of Iran's seaborne trade. Now let us look at the Trilateral Trade and Transit Agreement of 2016. So in May 2016, India, Iran and Afghanistan had signed this Trilateral Agreement, which entailed the establishment of transit and transport corridor among the three countries using Chabahar port as one of the regional hubs for sea transportation. And it included a construction of rail line from Chabahar port to Zahedan along the border with Afghanistan as an alternate trade route to Afghanistan and Central Asia. The state-owned Indian Railway Construction Limited, also known as IRCON, had signed a MOU with the Iranian Rail Ministry and promised to provide all services, superstructure work and financing, which was supposed to cost around $1.6 billion. And now this is being done by the Iranian Rail Ministry on its own. Now the Chabahar port is considered as a gateway to the golden opportunities for trade by the three countries in the wake of Pakistan denying transit access to India with respect to Afghanistan. So this was all in today's editorial analysis. Now let's see what kind of questions can be asked in prelims and mains. So in prelims, location based questions can be asked. So one should be clear about the location of Chabahar port, location of places like Zahedan in Iran, Jarans in Afghanistan, Gwadar port, Bandar Abbas port, Strait of Hormuz. Also, one should be knowing about the operating company for Chabahar, which is operating the port. Also, one can be asked about the trilateral agreement which was signed between India, Iran and Afghanistan in 2016. And one should also be aware about this Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, which was the nuclear deal that was signed by the 6 countries with Iran. It includes the P5 plus Germany. And now US has withdrawn from this. In mains, the question can be on India-Iran relations, the impact of China-Iran partnership on India's interests, especially vis-a-vis the Chabahar project. And also a question can be about the US factor in India-Iran relations and whether it is taking away the strategic autonomy which Indian government always talks about, that India takes all its foreign policy decisions based on its strategic autonomy. So these are the kind of questions that can be asked. So this was all in today's editorial analysis. We'll see you next time with another editorial. Thank you.